Another wander in the woods today. There's been a little bit of precipitation and the weather has got a little bit cooler. It's the end of August. I'm hoping we might find some fungi, but if not, we're just going to have a nice stroll in the woods. It's still quite dry underfoot, so it may just not be quite right, but we're going to have a look around anyway. This is a very nice, interesting habitat here actually. This ditch with moss on the side, moss looking very verdant. This is chanterelle territory, although I'm conscious that I keep on saying that and not showing you any chanterelles and not finding any. These are ruts created by some forestry machinery at some point. This is a plantation again. This is a forest of, well, what are these? The larch, maybe? Or balsam fir or something. Anyway, we're just going to have a wander around. It's beautifully calm. There's been a squirrel here. See, a squirrel's eaten or peeled all of the little flakes off a cone and eaten the seeds. And we do seem to be getting to a slightly more moist environment here. I mean, the thing with chanterelles is if they were here you'd see them because they're bright yellow. I haven't seen a single fruiting body of any fungus yet. Although I must be on the lookout for things that aren't bright yellow. But even if we don't find fungi, the moss lovers are going to be in their element today. We'll go over this way. Another squirrel's lunch table. I mean, it might not be a squirrel, it might be a jay or something like that. But something has rested here and pulled apart a conifer cone and eaten the seeds. Same again here. It's always these little stumps, which I think probably does indicate it's a squirrel. They'll sit on the stump because it gives them good visibility all around, in case something's creeping up on them to eat them. But yeah, every single one of these stumps has got the remains of a squirrel's lunch on it. Another slightly more moist, mossy. Oh, there's a butterfly. Spotted wood, perhaps? Yes. And they're doing this thing where you quite often see this in little clearings in the woods. You'll find a spotted wood butterfly and they rest, and then another one comes along and they do this dance thing. It's either some kind of mating thing or it's two males competing for the space or something like that. We might see some more of that. Here, a wood pigeon off there to my right. Not that I wish to prepare you for disappointment, but even if we don't find mushrooms today, this is amazing. This is a lovely place to walk here on a soft carpet of moss. So yeah, here's another squirrel's lunch table, and that's the core of one of these. Well, these are not pine cones, they're some other conifer. Spruce maybe, or something like that. But that's the core of it, and all the scales have been nibbled off and the seeds are gone. Now that looks like there might have been a fungus there. But whatever it is, it's over now. Anyway, I'll put the camera off, I think, for a little while we just enjoy walking on the soft carpet of moss here. I'll switch it back on if we find anything interesting. I see a little patch of yellow over here. What have we got? No, it's just a piece of broken wood. It does seem to be damp enough here. There is enough moss around, although the soil underneath is still not as wet as it could be for fungi. Strange, because I thought we had quite a lot of rain the other day. But anyway, interesting structure there. Some kids have been making a den or something. Should we go and have a look? And this kind of little mossy dell here is, well, ought to be perfect for chanterelles, because again you've got this gradient, these slopes. Just allows the fungi to find the place where they're really happy. You end up with a gradient of moisture and soil acidity and things like that, and it's often a good place to look on a slope, because, as I say, yeah, it just allows the organisms that are very picky about what they want to find their place. Anyway, yeah, so somebody's made a little den there. Looks like that might have been a while ago. It is still school holidays, so I imagine some kids have been here and built themselves a little shelter. Let's just spend a moment or two enjoying the sunshine coming into this little forest glade here. Experience possibly, you might say, marred by the sound of a couple of different small light aircraft flying overhead, but it's possible to find calm even when there are other sounds of human activity in the distance. We can, for example, stand here and reflect that sound is not us. And also that even if that sound is in some way disturbing, it's now fading away, diminishing and fading into the distance, where it dips below the level of the forest sounds. And once more, calm is upon us. So So the birds twittering in the trees, I heard the flap of some wings, probably a pigeon. That sounded like it could have been a woodpecker actually, just knocking on a tree. Anyway, we came here to look for mushrooms, but I hope you enjoyed that little moment of calm. What would one of my fruitless fungi forays be without examination of an eggshell? Again, I think that's a pigeon's egg. Somewhere high above us there is a pigeon's nest. Although it may not. It may be that some predator has carried a pigeon's egg here to eat it. A magpie perhaps, carrion crow or something like that, has stolen a pigeon's egg from the nest and brought it here to eat it. It's possible. Anyway, let's go on looking for mushrooms. Perhaps if we can find somewhere that's... So we're under conifers at the moment, so that's one environment. Perhaps if we can find a bit of broadleafed forest, maybe with some fallen logs, you know, we might have a chance at finding something else. Now we've got a slightly different environment, still planted firs and spruce and larch or whatever, much more mature trees here, which means that the soil here has probably been undisturbed for longer, but also mixed in we've got some pines. So that's a Scots pine now, I think, which means different soil conditions, which might mean different things to find. So I'm seeing heather here, which means acidic soil. And pine, different potential host species, so we could be looking for saffron milkcaps, for example, which I have found a few times in the past, but never in enough quantity and good enough condition for the table. But we live in hope. Again, more evidence that we're not the first people here. Not that we expected we were. But again, somebody's made a little shelter there, probably kids. Eva, just slow down. We are keeping Eva on the lead because, well, there could be deer here and she will chase them. So there is a trail of sorts through the woods here, and I'm sticking to it because I don't really want to go charging through loads of waist-high bracken. Another lovely view of nature, the heather, the sunlight streaming through the trees, dragonflies and damselflies dancing in the sunlight. We must be close to water. Just down here is the spotted wood butterfly that I told you about earlier. Let's see how close we can get. It's just down here, resting on that young conifer there. You see it? And it's just waiting for another butterfly to come into this little clearing where it will do that spiraling upward dance, which, yeah, it must be about territory or breeding or something like that. So now we're moving into a mixed woodland with oak. I think I saw some birch as well. Maybe this holds the promise of a bit of foraging, but at this point I've almost accepted that we're going to have another empty basket day. But that's okay. It might seem like this is demoralising, but we could choose to think of this empty basket foraging as exposure therapy for disappointment. The disappointment of returning home with an empty foraging basket is minor, but learning to keep a light heart in spite of that seems like it might put me in a position to maybe better weather larger disappointments in other areas of life. I just saw a squirrel over there. I think we'll just restrain Doggo for a moment because she does like the squirrels. When we first came to Dorset, I saw a lot of these holes in the landscape here like this, and I just imagined that this must be an excavation made by humans. It looks very regular. It's a circular pit. It's obviously very old because it's got trees growing in it. Most likely this is actually a sinkhole, so underneath this terrain is limestone and chalk. When you have forests like this growing on the surface, you get acidic soil, and the acidic water leaches down into the soil and gradually dissolves away the limestone. It creates caves, and then when those caves collapse or fill in, you get sinkholes like this one. So this is probably quite old. I'm not in any danger of falling in there and getting swallowed alive, although, you know, no risk is ever completely zero. But anyway, so yes, these are sinkholes. I think some of them were used by Neolithic people as burial pits, and also when the soil does collapse in like this, the exposed edges may have resources like flints that are usable to people. So yeah, we've got exposed flints here, look, where the surface is kind of just collapsed in, and all of these sides expose the strata of the surrounding soil. So yeah, big nodule of flint there, which could have been useful for somebody if they were working on flint tools. Our first fungus of the day has appeared. Common earthball. I see another one just down there as well. So common earthball, not edible. And as the name suggests, very common, so hardly surprising that we found one. Anyway, let's carry on along the trail. Lovely little things to look at here. So here's a tiny seedling oak. Almost certainly a offspring of this older oak here. But yeah, that one's just starting out. Will it turn into a huge tree? There's a slightly older one, perhaps from last year. Can we see any that are several years old? I can't see any here. Anyway, onward. So here, another environment, birches on a quite steep mossy bank and quite damp. But again, I'm not finding anything, so I didn't really expect that I would. Today is not just about looking for mushrooms. Today is about getting out and being quiet in the woods. Well, here's a couple of small fungi. Not really sure what that is. It could be a Lactarius. That one doesn't look like it though. That looks like it could be a brown roll rim or something. But anyway, we found a couple of fungi. Another big sinkhole over there. I'm not really sure how well these come across on camera, but that is a deep hole. I often find the camera tends to kind of flatten and de-emphasize a lot of things that seem quite striking in real life. Another reason to get out here and experience it if you can. Now you might be wondering why Eva is sometimes off the lead and sometimes on the lead. We do tend to assess the situation. The main risk is that she will chase deer. Obviously if there were livestock here she would chase those as well and we would keep her on the lead. She will chase squirrels, but she tends to stop when they run up a tree. The main risk is if she chases deer she can run for a long way and she may end up running onto a road or something like that. So I tend to keep my wits about me and look at tracks. And so here we got a bit of sand that's been smoothed by the rain that we had a couple of days ago. And so those are deer tracks there. I think that's in fact I think there's two different deer tracks there, although it's possibly fore and hind foot of the same deer running in the same direction. You know, the one foot landed, the other foot landed, but those look to me to be deer tracks. They have two toes. I'm just going to look around and see what else we've got. Obviously cycle tracks, so mountain bikes or something like that. Looks like a fat wheeled mountain bike there. Lots of human footprints, so there's a tread of somebody's shoe. I did see some horse hoof prints earlier. Let's see if we can find one of those, but it was from a shod horse, so not free roaming semi-wild ponies or anything like that. But yeah, I'm not seeing any fresh deer tracks, so that's part of the information that we use to kind of assess the momentary risk of whether it's okay to have the dog off or on the lead. It's not the only factor that we assess. Oh look, pigeons. Yeah, not the only factor that we assess. Now it's interesting to note, so you might think this woodland's really dry, but look, you can see that there's been recent precipitation and runoff here. We did have some heavy rain about a couple of days ago, and that's what's carved these channels out here and washed all this sand out. So we've got some fresher tracks here, so something's crossed the path here, although it does look like a dog. Dog footprints, boot prints from people. Not seeing any more deer. So yeah, the other thing we might assess is how far Eva could potentially run if she did chase something. So if we were to encounter deer here, for example, if a deer came crashing out of the woods here onto the path and went off over there, there's just no hope of Eva chasing it through the dense undergrowth here. So that's less of a risk. She might get excited about the deer, but she won't get very far if she tried to chase it. What can you smell? What tracks can you detect, Eva? With your powerful little nose. Anything? No? You've got sand on your nose now, you look silly. It's alright, nobody's looking. It's fine. We obviously assess is her mood. So if there are deer in the area, her demeanour will change. She will tend to get a lot more excited once she gets the scent of them. And we can pick up on that, and so we'll make a decision about whether she seems like she's going to charge off at any moment. Anyway, there is what looks like a horseshoe, but that's quite an old one because it's in the soft mud here, and I can't see any others, so the others have washed away. So thank you for joining me on yet another empty basket foraging trip here in the woods. It might be that the basket is just an excuse to get out here and enjoy the tranquility of this place, or it might be that I'm just telling you that to cope with the fact that I have an empty basket. Either way, I think it's all good. I hope this has been enjoyable for you. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.